Okay. Now, what was that? There was that. Oh. Yes, that was existing, wasn't it? Until I found something. Hello! I thought I would explain more about my accelerated workflow, which has given me such a superhuman output, allowing my music to expand out on an exponent after I found SoundCloud. To this day, I receive no reach on almost any platform other than SoundCloud. If I lost them, I'm toast. So let's start with how the Suno clones are made. Typically, I create 30 to 50 songs per bass track. The bass track is made traditionally with no AI, using Vegas Pro 22 to edit and mix it. I use songs from Soundful, which are fully licensed but not AI created. They are free to distribute across platforms in albums, published through SoundCloud on Spotify, Apple Music Store, Amazon Music, YouTube, and other places. I have 260,000 views on SoundCloud, and 59 on Spotify. Probably mostly me. And 0 on Apple Music. Deezer is there, too. I'm proud of the albums I publish in this manner. And I think my YouTube channel for EFSMB will probably have lots of people. One day. Though right now there's only 3 subscribers. One day, I expect all my platforms will rise up like ships on a rising tide. Albums published this way must be made up only of bass tracks, of which there are about 30 to 50 since December. So creeping up on the Beatles, 210 tracks in a lifetime. But SoundCloud is another story. They allow AI stuff like Suno, but not for distribution or advertisements. Still, they allow them to exist, and they will promote them. Here in Suno, check out the 3 workflow images. It shows you what you're dealing with. A very well-featured music creation system in UI. If you want to call this just a prompt, then you're probably talking about the styles section, where you can write a complex prompt, like the one shown. A good prompt will get you better music. It's also important for controlling the genre and the choice of instruments. I find adding violin to things can be really beautiful, but tacky if it's used wrong. Very hard to get really good violin pieces with other rock and pop tracks. But if you land the right violin track, your heart breaks. It's like 90% low-grade spam and maybe 5% the best thing you've ever heard. Violin tracks, specifically. So yeah, you're just typing it into a prompt, but you still need to know what genre you want. What instruments would sound good together. More complex prompts yield better results. But rather than the prompt doing everything, at times I've put disco and got pretty good results. It's important for changing the genre and instruments for sure, but it's not the core of the workflow. That's in the audio samples. You upload one of those bass tracks to the Suno platform, it kind of makes it into a separate song for you to compete with. The lyrics as I heard them, and a prompt describing the track, which you can reuse to make similar sounding tracks to your original. My favorite genres: rap, pop, disco, country, rock, synthwave. You can change the lyrics it's using. I find putting my own text files with the lyric sheet into the prompt box for lyrics. You can say it's just a prompt, but no, that's the lyrics to the song. Quite an important element, actually. You can get it to write random lyrics, but I don't like the results. If you have good lyrics, you can just leave the audio sample box empty, and it won't use your voice as a basis for songs. I've made good songs like this, but 90% of the time, using my own voice in the bass track gets better results. Assuming my original singing in the bass track is good quality and the lyrics are a good song. Then in more options, you have exclude styles. So you can say no rap if you want. I like rap. Personally, many of my favorite songs of mine are rap versions. There's a particularly good version of Art Therapy for Latent Criminals that uses a rap backtrack as a scratch vinyl record sound. Stop bothering me, my dear. That one. I never use exclude style. You can control the gender, which is useful, obviously, when giving lines to your singer. I usually do about 50-50, but on my Ronin song it was 66-33, in favor of the male singers. For certain tracks it makes sense. Lyrics mode, manual or auto. I think this has to do with autogen songs. I have never tried it. As a fully automatically generated song with no human lyrics in the prompt and no human bass tracks, I'm not even sure if I'd own the commercial rights anymore. I think generally the person who does the input owns the output, tentatively in law, though other people stealing your stuff might be hard to police. But yeah, no lyrics even? Not sure you can even sell that as something you own the rights to. But here's the weirdness, which makes the robots sing weirdly. But they're drunk. And they also go off script and say lots of weird shit. Very funny. But ultimately, I find it disrupts the song, so I avoid it. I keep it at 50. Style influence seems to control how closely it follows your original track. Audio influence, no clue. Down at the bottom, you can put in a name for the song, which persists across new creations until you change it. So as you can see, it's a suite of songs more than a prompt box, designed to maximize efficiency in making your songs as high quality as possible and mass producible. If you're not rushing, don't. It can take about 5 minutes to write up a style prompt. Get all the settings just right for the song you want to make. Listen to the new settings, new tracks as they're being created to see if you're getting the results you want. You can spend about 5 minutes on each time you press create, which makes 2 songs of the same style every time. It consumes 10 Suno credits. Right now I get $2,500 a month. Soon I will pay triple for the $10,000 a month and make so many songs your jaw will literally shit in it. Hit the floor. And this is the key. In all the styles you could ever want or imagine, but only the good ones. Again, if you don't know what you're doing, you won't pick the right genres. You won't know what instruments to use. You won't know what goes good with your bass track. It's true that these tools make it a lot easier to make music, but that doesn't mean that the most talented creators who dedicate the most time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears won't rise to the top still. People don't get that. It makes it easier for people with no talent to make music. That's pretty good. But the people with the most talent will congeal at the top. there's still skill in the artistry. Hey, writing a really good song isn't easy. It's really hard. And maybe you can make a song like that, but can you do it every day of your life for months or years? If yes, you can get those results with Suno. But it's so much more complicated than people think. Overall, making 30 tracks will take you 45 to 60 minutes. Making 50 will take you 2 hours. You can rush it and just click through everything and not use all the features well and just put it in a style prompt with one sentence. And if you do, your song will fail. You'll have 50 bad tracks and nothing to show for it. It's hard to explain, but to make good music, you must input the correct information to create good music. There's artistry there. Success is not automatic. You can get it wrong. It takes real skill to make something genuinely good. My 1650 songs are not shovelware. They are genuinely good songs. Almost all of them. High quality works. Top tier songs. I go toe to toe with the best in the industry and I win. Because I'm not restrained by their rules. I can say the things they can't. For the first time in my life, the pop singers are saying what I have always wanted to hear, and I'm very proud of my achievements. The hardest part is making the bass track. That's where the artistry is. But the Suno process is important too. You sink or swim based on how well you do during this stage of development. Most of my bass tracks are rejected for promotion on SoundCloud. I'm not sure why, as often they're better than the whole rest of the album, but something about how I make them. Their robots declare it and no for promotion. But they almost always promote the Suno clones. These are my bread and butter. The Suno clones are where I get my views. SoundCloud Pro accounts will promote your songs if they're between 2 and 8 minutes long and also have some other factors. This gives them a boost to the view counts. It sends them to people's feeds. People see your stuff, they listen, they like, they repost and comment. Sometimes they subscribe. From promotion, depending on the song, I get 200 to 3,000 hits a song, usually closer to 200. But some are bloated with thousands of views, like 6 or 8 likes. So you upload your songs and promote them, and okay, I was making songs one by one. That was nice, but I'd get maybe a few hundred an album once every few months. But add Suno to the mix, and this is almost brokenly good. It doesn't just promote new tracks. It also refreshes all your older tracks that they've promoted before. So with Suno, I'm making about 3 albums a week, averaging 30 or 40 songs an album. All getting promoted, but then also promoting the other 15 albums I made over the last few months. As you can see, it's a cascading dragon you must feed. And that's why it took only a few days to jump by 20,000. Because it promotes the new material, bringing in thousands, but cascades through the dozens of other albums. Each time you refresh it, it probably promotes 5 to 10,000 more just from older material. I also appear to be developing some natural growth as I'm getting bigger. Yeah, so that's the secret to my success. The SoundCloud algorithm, designed for people like me. Now you can do the same. No, you're not listening. If you can make a good bass track, and if you're a professional grade lyricist with something real to say, and if you're good at engineering, the Suno clones, and if you're willing to make songs all day, every day, basically, and you don't have or need a job, if you're willing to match my output, yes, then you can beat me at making music or match my output. I repeat, you cannot do it by typing disco song about chickens into the prompt box and speed clicking through 100 versions. They won't sound terrible, is about the best I can offer you. There is a big stretch between I understand the process of how you are creating something, and I can do the same thing as you. I am an anomaly. I actually don't expect a sea of Suno artists to match my output and become the norm. I expect I will continue to be mostly an anomaly. I am good at my job. I am a pop singer. You might find people who can match my volume, but I don't think you'll find people who can make music as good as I do. I genuinely believe my songs are the best ever. I think I am a top-tier artist who can go toe-to-toe with the greats and win. Okay, so now we're going to get into the deep dive with Mr. Boss and Sally. And I just want to issue a disclaimer. Mr. Boss and Sally make certain claims about Jordan Owen here that I absolutely disagree with. They misunderstood what I was saying. They characterized Jordan Owen as having created nothing or just an empty room, whatever. No. Jordan is a talented musician who has created a great many works through a storied career that he's carried himself through college, university. He's a professional musician who has created a great deal of fine works, which are not for me, but I respect that he has done this. So, after issuing that correction, I now feel free to open up the curtains on the deep dive. Let you oof, hupada.
Traditional music production operates on a slow timeline. A standard 9-song album often requires many months of writing, recording, and professional mixing before it's ready for release. Then there is an independent creator operating under the name EFSMB. This profile shows a completely different scale of production. The creator has uploaded 1,589 distinct tracks. That volume translates to dozens of full-length albums, all deployed in a vastly compressed timeframe. This chart shows the result of that upload velocity over a 120-day period. The account generated over 240,000 algorithmic streams across its catalog. This output relies entirely on generative AI, specifically an audio-to-audio model called Suno. Suno is a generative artificial intelligence program designed to produce realistic songs that combine vocals and instrumentation from audio or text prompts. A single independent user achieving this platform dominance indicates we are looking at an industrialized digital assembly line rather than traditional human creation. The industry generally operates under the prompting fallacy, the assumption that AI music generation is just a user lazily typing a prompt and hitting generate. Standard text-to-audio prompting typically results in linear, low-grade audio outputs that are easily ignored by the algorithm. EFSMB's catalog, however, consistently achieves high retention and dominates algorithmic feeds in a way typical prompted audio cannot. This level of platform traction depends on a highly engineered, human-in-the-loop architectural exploit. The first step in this pipeline is bass track engineering. The creator writes original lyrics, records actual vocal performances, and mixes them over fully licensed instrumental tracks using standard audio editing software. This results in a bass track. A bass track is the foundational audio file that provides the emotional delivery and structural anchor for the final generated songs. Ironically, the platform's promotional algorithms frequently reject these purely human-crafted bass tracks for distribution. In this system, human performance has shifted to serve strictly as a foundational mold for machine replication. The creator feeds the human bass track into the Suno AI platform as raw audio data, bypassing the standard text-to-music workflow. The creator uploads the audio file and inputs the original written lyrics alongside it to guide the model's vocal generation. Precise text prompts and negative constraints then force the AI into specific genres, or mandate the inclusion of specific instruments, like violins. The generation is further constrained by advanced parameters like weirdness and style influence. Weirdness determines how much the AI deviates from traditional musical structures, while style influence controls how closely the generated track adheres to the specified mood prompts. Through this process, a single human bass track is multiplied into 30 to 50 distinct, high-quality stylistic variations. These clones successfully mimic the pacing and vocal cadence of the human bass track, wrapping the performance in entirely new musical arrangements. This generative multiplier solves the volume constraint of traditional music production, while preserving the creator's original human intent. The final phase weaponizes those 50 AI clones against the distribution platform, SoundCloud. SoundCloud Pro features an algorithm that actively promotes new tracks to user feeds, provided they fit specific parameters, like a runtime between 2 and 8 minutes. To exploit this, the creator deploys 3 full albums per week, constantly feeding new audio packets into the promotion feature. The algorithm responds immediately, pushing these high-volume tracks to user feeds and generating instant bursts of engagement. This triggers a feedback loop the creator calls the cascading dragon. The algorithm does not evaluate these new tracks in isolation. High engagement on the new AI clones forces the algorithm to automatically refresh and promote older tracks from the creator's massive 1,500-song library. This chart shows the resulting compounding exponential reach, with massive spikes in stream data correlating directly with the deployment of new clone albums. The AI-generated music serves as the fuel required to keep the platform's algorithmic engagement loop permanently ignited. Traditional music production operates much like hand-weaving a single quilt, a very localized process defined by intense human craftsmanship. The EFSMB workflow operates like a mechanized loom, shifting the metric of success from crafting one perfect item to managing production of hundreds every day. For the creator, the inherent difficulty of making art remains. It has simply scaled up to the logistics of managing massive volume. Traditional industry professionals often view this as a threat because it invalidates the metrics of time and singular focus they spent their lives mastering. However, judging an algorithmic workflow by traditional craft metrics misses the point of what this new medium actually is. The daily reality of this workflow requires relentless deployment, continuous parameter tweaking, and dedicated human bass track engineering. A creator who relies entirely on typing prompts will fail. Success requires the dedication to manage the system and supply human audio anchors. Generative AI tools have effectively removed the friction of asset production. The modern creator's role centers on system design, architecting the algorithmic frameworks that scale individual assets to millions.
Imagine, if you would, just dedicating your entire life to learning an instrument.
Right.
You spend years, maybe decades, just building up the calluses on your fingers. You study music theory until your eyes actually physically blur.
Oh, yeah, the whole 10,000 hours thing.
Exactly. You pour your absolute soul into crafting like 1 or maybe 2 perfect songs a year. You bleed for your art, and then you wake up one day, log onto the internet, and you find someone out there who is producing 1,000 highly polished, fully produced songs a week.
A week. It's just wild.
How would you feel? Like, would you be intrigued? Or would you be absolutely terrified?
Well, you shouldn't just imagine it, because there is an individual operating under the moniker Empowered Feminist Stole My Baby.
Which is quite a name.
It really is. They're often abbreviated to EFSMB, real name Brendan Rose. And they are doing exactly that right now.
Yeah, it completely shatters the traditional timeline of human creativity.
Yeah.
We are looking at a stack of sources today for this deep dive that essentially serve as the blueprints for a hyper-production engine. Yeah, let's go over what we actually have in front of us.
Right. So we have a deep collection of this artist's personal essays, specifically this fascinating manifesto titled Hello, Stranger. We also have these incredibly detailed screenshots of their software workflow.
Which are super revealing, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Plus raw lyrical texts, audio transcripts of multiple song variations, and the actual data dashboards straight from their SoundCloud account.
It's a gold mine. But before we start ripping into the mechanics of how someone even achieves that kind of output, I do need to lay out a quick roadmap for you, the listener.
Yeah, a disclaimer is definitely needed here.
Definitely. As we dissect these source documents, you're going to hear some incredibly provocative album titles and themes. I mean, the discography includes titles like Luciferianism, Genocide News, and, of course, the artist's own moniker.
Which makes it really crucial to establish our parameters here. Our objective today is to impartially examine the methodology, right? The algorithmic mechanics and the underlying philosophy of this specific workflow.
Right, the how and the why of the machine itself.
Exactly. We're looking at the data and the process. We're not endorsing, condemning, or taking any kind of stance on the political or provocative viewpoints hinted at in those titles.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the scale of the anomaly. Because to even comprehend the philosophy, you kind of have to look at the math first.
The math is staggering.
It really is. I'm staring at the dashboard data from SoundCloud for artists that was provided in our sources. And, well, think about your favorite band. Think about how many songs are on their definitive greatest hits album.
Maybe 20.
Yeah, maybe 30 if it's a double disc, right? This artist, Brendan Rose, has uploaded an incredible of 1,589 tracks to their profile.
And we need to contextualize that number against time, too, because many legendary Hall of Fame bands might release, 200 songs over a 30-year career.
Right. The Beatles are famous for a lifetime output of around 210 tracks.
Exactly. But this dashboard shows 1,589 tracks, and the streaming data primarily spans this incredibly compressed window, basically just March 2025 to March 2026.
Over that specific 12-month period, the chart shows 240,458 total streams. And it culminates in this massive vertical spike right at the end of the graph.
Just a wall of data.
But here is this statistical anomaly that really stopped me in my tracks. 250,000 streams on SoundCloud, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at their Spotify dashboard, 59 streams.
Wow.
Apple Music, 0. How does a creator achieve viral velocity on one platform while remaining a literal ghost on the others?
It's a great question. And the artist addresses this platform disparity head-on in the Hello Stranger document. They write, "To this day, I receive no reach on almost any platform other than SoundCloud. If I lost them, I'm toast."
That's a huge vulnerability.
It is. They even make a self-deprecating note that those 59 views on Spotify are likely just their own internal testing.
Oh, wow. So it's just them hitting refresh.
Pretty much. It suggests that the success isn't necessarily about the music transcending platforms organically, It's about a creator finding a highly specific, exploitable ecosystem within one platform's architecture.
Right, they cracked a specific code. And the discography itself reads like a chaotic fever dream. Like looking at the album list in the screenshots, you jump from an album called Barnum and Bailey's Circus directly into Kicking John Coltrane Out of the Strip Club in Paradise.
What a title.
I know. Then you have One Punch Woman, followed by Art Therapy for Latent Criminals, and then a pivot into something as mundane as Toronto's Snowiest Day. And these aren't just like 3-song EPs. These are sprawling collections.
Dozens of tracks per album.
So playing devil's advocate here for a second, when you see 1,589 tracks generated in such a narrow window, my immediate reaction is skepticism.
Sure, of course.
Is this just digital littering? It feels like someone taking a dump truck full of puzzle pieces, backing it up, dumping it on the floor of an art gallery, and demanding we call it art. Where is the quality control?
What's fascinating here is that is the exact critique leveled at hyper-prolific AI creators all the time, and the artist is hyper-aware of it.
They know people hate it.
They absolutely do. They know people view their work as shovelware, but they vehemently reject that categorization. In their writings, they explicitly bring up that Beatles comparison we mentioned earlier.
Right.
They know they are dwarfing that output, but they genuinely believe these tracks are top tier. They state that they believe their songs go toe-to-toe with the greats.
That level of confidence is wild. They literally write that they genuinely believe their songs are the best ever made.
But to understand the foundation of that supreme confidence, we have to look at the actual engine driving the output.
Right, the Hello Stranger manifesto.
Exactly. We have to deconstruct that document because it outlines what they call their accelerated workflow.
This is where my assumptions were completely challenged, to be honest. When I hear 1,500 songs, my brain immediately pictures a guy typing "make a cool rock song" into a text box, hitting enter, and gonna make a sandwich.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just a magic button.
But that isn't the process at all.
Not even close. The process begins with a surprisingly traditional, labor-intensive human element. It starts with the creation of what the artist calls the bass track.
The bass track, right?
And they are incredibly adamant about this distinction. In the text, they put it in all caps, and I quote, "The hardest part is making the bass track. That's where the artistry is."
Let's pull apart this bass track phase then, because they aren't starting with AI generation. They are using Vegas Pro 22, which is a traditional timeline-based video and audio editing software.
A classic tool.
Yeah. And to get the foundational beat, they use a platform called Soundful.
And we really need to be precise about what Soundful is, because the artist makes a huge point of distinguishing it.
How so?
Well, Soundful provides fully licensed, royalty-free backing tracks, but the artist notes these are fundamentally different from the AI generation that happens later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Soundful uses algorithmic combinations of human-crafted stems and loops to generate backing beats. It's procedural generation, not the kind of neural network audio synthesis we see elsewhere.
So they pull down this procedurally generated royalty-free beat into Vegas Pro. But then comes the human seed. The artist physically records their own original vocals over this beat.
Right, their actual voice.
Yeah, they use their own physical breath to lay down the melody and the lyrics. This human-sung, traditionally edited mix becomes the bass track.
That bass track is the DNA. It is the architectural blueprint for literally everything that follows in the accelerated workflow.
Okay, so the human puts in the sweat equity to build the blueprint. Then we get step 2. They take this single human bass track, export it as an audio file, and upload it directly into Suno.
Which is a heavy-duty AI music generation platform.
Exactly. This is where the exponential scaling occurs.
Mm.
The artist uses that uploaded audio file as a prompt.
And from that single seed, they generate between 30 and 50 variations, which they refer to as clones.
Clones.
Yeah, though clones might actually be a misleading term here, because they aren't just creating subtle remixes. They are transmuting that single vocal recording into entirely different genres.
And we have concrete audio transcripts in the sources proving exactly how this mutation works.
Yeah, the "he was found wanting" track.
Right. The transcripts show multiple different audio files, track 3, track 12, the original bass track, and they all share the exact same lyrical structure.
Word for word.
Yeah, they all contain the lines, "Hurry up and tell me your voice is fading," and they all hit this repeating chorus, "Looks like your life was found wanting." He did.
But the sonic packaging around those lyrics is entirely different.
Totally different.
One variation is described in the transcripts as a high-energy comedic rap-rock fusion, but then another file containing the exact same human vocal foundation is rendered as a 90s pop track with a rolling heavy beat.
Wow.
The AI takes the human input and essentially dresses it in 30 to 50 completely different sonic wardrobes.
It's almost like giving a master chef a single perfectly grown tomato and asking them to make 50 completely different dishes where the tomato is the star.
A soup, a salsa, a complex pastry.
Exactly. The core ingredient is human, but the recipe is algorithmic. But wait, how does Suno actually do that? Does it strip the vocal out of the soundful beat and just lay it over a new AI beat?
It's actually a lot more complex than simple stem separation. Suno uses an audio-to-audio prompting mechanism.
I go audio.
Yeah, it analyzes the waveform of the bass track, so the cadence, the pitch, the rhythm of the human vocal, and it maps that information onto its vast latent space of musical genres.
That is wild.
It isn't just cutting and pasting, it's reimagining the entire acoustic environment while maintaining the structural integrity of the original vocal performance.
Which really brings us to the just a prompt fallacy. Critics love to dismiss AI art by saying it requires zero skill.
Oh, constantly.
They say you just type a sentence and the computer does the work. But looking at the screenshots of the Suno UI in our sources, it is vastly more complicated than a Google search bar.
Oh, absolutely. The artist vehemently fights back against the just a prompt criticism. The screenshots reveal this dark mode interface packed with specific granular controls.
Yeah, they aren't just typing make it sound good.
No, the artist is manually inputting complex style blends. For that "he was found wanting" track, the style prompt isn't just rock. It specifically reads dark melody, Eurovision, garage rock.
They are actively forcing the algorithm to collide genres, and they have deeply developed philosophies about instrumentation within that UI.
Like the violin roll.
Yes. My favorite detail from the sources, the violin rule. They note that adding violin to a prompt can yield incredibly beautiful results, but if the AI misinterprets it, it sounds incredibly tacky.
Which tells us a lot about how these AI models function, right? A synthesized violin often over-indexes on artificial vibrato.
Oh, so it sounds like cheap MIDI.
Exactly, rather than a physical instrument. So the artist has learned to navigate these specific acoustic landmines through trial and error. They openly admit that this AI process results in what they call 90% low-grade spam and maybe 5% best thing you've ever heard.
So they have to sift through a mountain of digital garbage to find the gold. And looking further down the UI screenshot, they are manipulating all these obscure sliders.
The vocal gender slider is a big one.
Yeah. The artist mentions that for a song about a Ronin, they specifically dialed the male-to-female vocal split to exactly 66-33. Why would you want a 66-33 split? What does that even sound like?
It creates a highly specific harmonic texture. Instead of a purely solo male or female voice, it directs the AI to generate a lead vocal that is mathematically blended.
So like a male lead with a female harmony.
Sort of, like a male lead with a persistent, synthesized female overtone or doubling. It's an unnatural acoustic effect that you couldn't easily replicate with human singers without heavy post-processing.
And then there is the slider labeled weirdness.
I love the weirdness slider.
Right. The artist explains they deliberately freeze this slider at exactly 50%. If you push it higher, they note that the AI robots start to sing weirdly, like they're drunk, or they go entirely off script.
Hallucinating strange lyrics or non-musical noises. Think of the weirdness slider as the audio equivalent of the temperature setting in a large language model. It controls the algorithmic randomness.
So low is safe, high is crazy.
Exactly. A low setting produces safe, predictable, but potentially boring results. A high setting encourages the AI to take wild, probabilistic leaps.
And they keep it at 50% because...
They find the drunken hallucinations funny, but recognize that it fundamentally destroys the structural integrity of the song they are trying to build.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The detail that completely rewired my understanding of this process. The secret sauce isn't just the sliders.
No, it's the imitation.
It is how the AI mimics the human seed. The AI isn't just generating a random, pristine robot voice to sing the lyrics. It is actively studying and imitating the physical performance from the bass track.
The artist writes about this with immense pride. They mention a specific track where the AI clones naturally adopted what the artist called their Michael Jackson vocalizations.
But hold on, how accurate is this mimicry? Is it actually understanding the emotion of a breath? Or is it just glitching an audio artifact and repeating it?
It's likely the latter functioning as the former. The artist physically performed little ticks, gasps, and rhythmic breathing sounds in their original Vegas Pro recording.
Right, human noises.
Yeah, and the neural network doesn't understand the emotion of a breath, but it recognizes those non-lexical audio artifacts as crucial rhythmic and tonal anchors.
Oh, wow.
So when it generates the 50 clones, it accurately maps those physical human idiosyncrasies across the new genres. The AI is doing a highly sophisticated impression of Brendan Rose, dressed up as a Eurovision garage rock band.
It is mimicking the ghost of the human creator. And this takes a massive amount of time.
It's not instantaneous.
No, the artist stresses that this is not an instant process. They say it takes roughly 5 minutes just to set up the prompt architecture for one batch. To generate an album of 50 tracks, it takes about 2 hours of constant curation.
Listening, adjusting sliders, spending credits, discarding the 90% spam.
Right. They view this curation as a distinct, highly specialized skill set. They write, if you rush it, your song will fail. You'll have 50 bad tracks and nothing to show for it.
Which brings us to the massive, glaring question at the center of all this.
How do they get the views?
Exactly. The artist now has a hard drive bursting with 50 perfectly curated clones of a single song. They've spent hours dialing in the weirdness and the Eurovision parameters. But having a hard drive full of MP3s doesn't magically generate 250,000 views on SoundCloud.
Right, the internet is a graveyard of unheard music.
How
do they get people to actually hit play?
This is where we transition from the mechanics of creation to the mechanics of distribution, and the answer lies deeply embedded in the Hello Stranger document.
It's a crazy system.
It is. The artist details a fascinating, almost parasitic relationship with a specific algorithmic quirk unique to SoundCloud.
The artist refers to it as the cascading dragon.
The cascading dragon?
But before we get to the dragon, we have to look at the initial hurdle. The artist states that the Suno-cloning process is do or die. They write, but the Suno process is important too. You sink or swim based on how well you do during this stage of development.
And the reason for that is tied to what I think is the most dystopic, ironic revelation in this entire deep dive.
It is a staggering detail. The artist reveals that SoundCloud's internal promotion bots frequently, systematically reject the original human-made bass tracks.
Let that sink in. The human spends hours editing in Vegas Pro, singing their own vocals, creating what they believe is the foundational artistry.
Yeah.
They upload it, and the algorithm listens to it and declares it a no for promotion. The artist even writes, "Most of my bass tracks are rejected for promotion by SoundCloud. I'm not sure why, as often they're better than the whole rest of the album."
But something about how I make them. Their robots declare it a no for promotion, but they almost always promote the Suno clones.
The human gets rejected. The robot gets pushed to the front page.
Why? Why would a platform's code prefer the AI over the human?
Well, we have to deduce what the bots are actually measuring, right? Algorithms don't hear soul or artistry.
They just see data.
Exactly. They measure audio metadata and sonic properties. It's highly probable that human mixed bass tracks, especially from an independent creator, lack the hyper-compressed, perfectly EQ'd loudness that AI tracks inherently possess.
Oh, because the AI is trained on mastered tracks.
Precisely. AI models are trained on millions of professionally mastered tracks, so their raw output mimics top-tier studio compression right out of the box.
So the bot is getting tricked.
The bot likely misinterprets this artificial pristine quality as professionalism and flags the human track as amateur due to its natural dynamic range or subtle acoustic imperfections.
That makes terrifying sense. The algorithm is optimizing for a mathematically perfect frequency response, not artistic merit. And the artist leans into this completely. They write, "These are my bread and butter. The Suno clones are where I get my views."
They have totally reverse engineered the platform's incentives. Let's look at the specific rules of the game as outlined in the manifesto.
Yeah, the SoundCloud Pro rules.
Right. To trigger this promotion, tracks must satisfy specific criteria. They state, SoundCloud Pro accounts will promote your songs if they're between 2 to 8 minutes long, and also some other factors. This gives them a boost the view counts.
Which explains why they can't just upload 30-second AI jingles. They have to engineer full-length structural songs.
Right. And if a track hits that 2 to 8 minute sweet spot and has that AI sheen the bots love, it gets pushed. As the artist says, it sends them to people's feeds. People see your stuff. They listen. They like, repost, and comment. Sometimes they subscribe.
The artist notes that this initial promotion generates anywhere from 200 to 3,000 hits per song, though they admit usually closer to 200, but some are bloated with thousands of views and 6 or 8 likes.
But here's the thing. 200 hits a song is nice. But if you have 200 hits on a song, you aren't hitting 250,000 total streams. The math doesn't add up.
It doesn't until you introduce the mechanism of the cascading dragon. The artist explains that in the past, when they were making songs one by one, they would get maybe a few hundred streams an album once every few months.
But adding Suno to the mix completely broke the math.
Because the algorithm doesn't just promote new tracks.
This is the critical insight. Uploading new material actively refreshes the promotion cycle on older tracks.
Let's read exactly how the artist describes it in Hello Stranger. They say, add Suno to the mix, and this is almost brokenly good. It doesn't just promote your new tracks, it also refreshes all your older tracks that they promoted before.
It is an algorithmic feedback loop.
So with Suno, I'm making about 3 albums a week, averaging 30 or 40 songs an album, all getting promoted, but then also promoting the other 15 albums I made over the last few months.
When you feed the system 40 new tracks, the system rewards you by not only pushing those 40 tracks, but by reaching back into your catalog and re-promoting thousands of older tracks.
They literally call it a cascading dragon you must feed.
It's such a visceral image.
They explain that this exact mechanism is why their view count jumps so fast. They write, that's why it took only a few days to jump by 20,000. Because it promotes the new material bringing in thousands, but it cascades through years. Dozens of other albums. Each time you refresh it, it probably promotes 15,000 more just from older material.
It's an architecture designed to reward relentless, inhuman volume.
Just constant feeding.
Yeah. If you stop uploading, the dragon starves, the refreshes stop, and the catalog dies. But because the artist has the Suno engine generating 50 clones from a single bass track, they are uniquely equipped to satisfy an algorithm that demands 3 albums a week.
It's as if you had a moderately successful YouTube video, but instead of the algorithm just recommending that one video, every time you uploaded a new clip, the algorithm decided to simultaneously broadcast every single home movie you've ever made onto national television.
Over and over again.
Over and over again.
Huh.
And the artist concludes this section of the manifesto with this chillingly smug sign-off.
Yeah, the taunt.
They explain the entire algorithmic secret, the cascading dragon, the numbers, and then they write, yeah, so that's the secret to my success. The SoundCloud algorithm, designed for people like me. Now you can do the same. No, you're not listening.
It's a taunt. They are laying the blueprint bare because they fundamentally believe most people lack the work ethic or the specific curatorial talent to execute the 50-clone workflow.
Even when the secret of the algorithm is handed to them on a silver platter.
Exactly.
Let's ground this massive theory in the dirt of an actual song, though. We keep orbiting this track he was found wanting, so let's use it as a full case study of the workflow in action. We have the raw text document containing the lyrics.
The lyrical content is intensely vivid, aggressive, and highly stylized.
It reads like a graphic novel. The narrator declares, I am the Ronin, master of the sword, so I'll take mine out and you can fumble with yours.
Very confrontational.
It's packed with this visceral imagery, like slapping enemies with nunchucks, strategically dropping caltrops to slow people down, and this recurring motif of a grim shadow haunting. And then it builds to that punchline chorus we mentioned, looks like your life was found wanting. He did.
But the vocal delivery of those lyrics isn't entirely original.
What do you mean?
Well, the artist details the origin of the audio samples used to construct the human bass track. They pulled public domain audio from a 3.5-hour film called The 47 Ronin.
But they didn't just sit down and watch a 3-hour classic cinema piece for inspiration. They explicitly state they plan to chop that thing up like fugu.
Which is a remarkably apt metaphor.
Preparing the pufferfish, right?
Exactly. Preparing fugu requires meticulous, dangerous knife work. One wrong slice and the meal is lethal. In the context of audio sampling, especially with public domain films, you are meticulously slicing out isolated dialogue fragments.
Right, avoiding the copyright strikes.
Yes. If you accidentally slice a copyrighted sound effect or a piece of background score, the platform's copyright bots will strike the track dead instantly.
So they successfully execute this fugu-level audio surgery, blends the ancient samurai dialogue with their own aggressive lyrics, sing the bass track, and feed it to the dragon. The MP3 transcript variations we have are jarring.
We discussed the genre shifts earlier, but let's look at the emotional manipulation.
Okay.
In the rap rock variation, the AI takes the word sucker and the vocalization ya hi waya ooh ooh and delivers them with this gravelly kinetic aggression. The AI interprets the text as hostile.
But then you listen to the 90s pop variation. The exact same human bass track, the exact same words, looks like your life was found wanting, are manipulated by the AI to sound almost melancholic.
Or perhaps ironically upbeat over a rolling heavy beat.
The AI is altering the emotional weight of a human performance without changing the source text at all.
But there's a very real physical bottleneck to this seemingly infinite creation loop. The sources reveal a fascinating logistical constraint.
The credits issue.
Right. Creating these 30 clones for the Ronin song actually completely depleted the artist's monthly allotment of Suno credits.
You run out of digital tokens, the machine shuts down. So what do? Do they pull out a credit card?
No. The artist notes that they were forced to pause their music creation to complete what they describe as audio comparison microtasks for the AI platform.
Wait, what does that actually mean? They were doing homework for the AI.
Essentially, yes. This is a process known as RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Oh, I've heard of that for text AI.
It's the same for audio. AI models need human intelligence to tell them what sounds good and what sounds like garbage. The platform allows users to earn generation credits by listening to 2 AI outputs and grading which one is better.
So the artist is spending half an hour functioning as a human training node.
Exactly.
They're literally grading the AI's homework, training the machine to be smarter, just to earn enough digital currency to feed their own human bass track back into the machine.
It is a completely closed symbiotic loop between creator and algorithm.
It perfectly illustrates the deeply intertwined dependency of the modern hypercreator. The human feeds the machine data, the machine grants the human credits. The human uses the credits to generate music, which feeds the SoundCloud algorithm, which demands more music, sending the human back to the machine.
Which really brings us to the philosophical core of this deep dive, because the artist isn't creating in a vacuum.
No, they know what people think of them.
They are incredibly acutely aware that a vast majority of traditional musicians violently despise this workflow.
So how does Brendan Rose justify this hyper-industrial process to themselves and to the people who hate them?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, a significant portion of the Hello Stranger text is actually dedicated to addressing critics. They specifically single out a critic named Jordan Owen 42, who they describe as having a deep traditional musical background and being feverishly anti-AI.
And what's strange is that the artist doesn't just attack Jordan Owen 42 blindly. There is this complex, almost pitying empathy.
Yeah, it's nuanced.
The artist writes, "I still see where he's coming from. He studied his whole life to make music. This probably seems like a huge insult to him."
They acknowledge the pain of obsolescence. They understand that a person who spent 20 years learning to master a guitar feels existentially threatened by someone generating 50 genres in 2 hours.
But that empathy has a hard limit.
Mm.
Because in the very next breath, they absolutely decimate the critic's worldview.
They do not hold back.
No, they argue that critics who just sit around complaining about the method of creation ultimately produce nothing of value. To explain their own value system, the artist uses this incredible metaphor about the cotton gin.
It is a purely industrialist view of artistic creation.
The artist argues, look, the invention of the automatic loom didn't destroy the concept of making a quilt. It just shifted the metric of how we judge the creator.
Right.
Before the loom, you were judged on the physical stamina and skill required to create one single quilt over 8 grueling months. The value was in the physical labor.
But once the technology scales, the scope of judgment changes. The artist writes, "The person who makes 100 quilts a day the best is king."
The skill shifts from physical craftsmanship to curatorial management.
You are no longer judged on the single stitch. You are judged on your ability to manage the mass production of aesthetics.
They are viewing themselves not as a singer-songwriter, but as the factory foreman of their own creative output. And they have another metaphor that really recontextualizes the whole 1,589 track discography.
The journal metaphor.
Yeah, they compare making AI songs to writing in a private journal, but they call it the journal on crack.
It's a compelling defense of intrinsic value over external validation.
They argue that if you write in a journal every single night for 10 years, nobody taps you on the shoulder and says you're wasting your time, you're not a real author.
Yeah.
Because the journal produces immense, undeniable personal value for you.
And at the end of your life, you have this massive catalog of memories.
Right. The artist asserts that generating their daily AI songs is the exact same process, just supercharged by technology. They are accruing thousands of songs that they personally own and love.
And they argue that the critic, by spending their energy leaving angry comments on YouTube, leaves behind what the artist calls an empty room.
Their legacy is a void of anger.
While the artist, by diligently feeding their bass tracks into Suno and then into the Cascading Dragon every single day, is building a treasure trove out of the Library of Alexandria.
And if we extrapolate this philosophy forward, the artist's vision for the future is staggering. They look ahead a single decade to the year 2034.
A very specific timeline.
Yeah, they anticipate that the workflow will become so frictionless that they'll be able to press a single click on a human bass track and generate 1 million high-quality songs instantly.
1 million songs from one click. They casually project a future where they create 4 billion songs in 4 months.
What does a discography of 4 billion songs even mean? Like, how do you even store that? How does a human listener even navigate it?
You can't.
And throughout all of this, you would think that relying so heavily on an algorithm would diminish the artist's ego, that they would feel like a passenger. But it does the exact opposite.
Because they view the AI not as an author, but purely as a lever. They do not believe AI makes everyone equal.
They explicitly state in the text, it makes it easier for people with no talent to make music that's pretty good, but the people with the most talent will congeal at the top.
They believe that because they are a top-tier artist, their specific human bass track, their specific curation of the weirdness slider, their specific understanding of the Cascading Dragon will inherently produce better AI clones than a talentless person pushing the same buttons.
They write, I go toe-to-toe with the best in the industry and I win because I'm not restrained by their rules.
It is a manifesto of algorithmic liberation. They have decoupled artistry from time and physical labor.
Okay, let's take a breath and zoom out to look at the entire landscape we just mapped.
It's a lot of terrain.
It is. We started with an anomalous dashboard, 1,589 tracks, and 250,000 streams isolated entirely on SoundCloud. We deconstructed the two-step engine, the meticulous creation of the human Vegas Pro bass track, followed by the exponential, genre-bending explosion of the Suno AI clones.
The 50 clones.
Right. We spent a lot of time dissecting the dystopian reality of the cascading dragon, where human art is actively rejected by bots, and AI variations are rewarded through a continuous 3-album-a-week algorithmic refresh cycle.
The feeding loop.
Exactly. And finally, we unpack the industrialist philosophy of a creator who views themselves as the manager of a 1,000-kilt-a-day factory, projecting a future of billions of songs.
A very thorough breakdown.
So what does this actually mean for you, the listener, the next time you put on your headphones? If you heard a track that genuinely moves you, something that raises the hair on your arms or makes you want to cry, does it fundamentally matter if it took a human being 6 agonizing months to arrange those notes in the studio, or if it took an algorithm 6 seconds to generate it based on a human's 50% weirdness prompt?
Does the origin of the geometry change the reality of the emotion you experience?
That's the question.
It is the defining artistic friction of our current era. But if we follow the artist's own projections, this raises a massive, unexplored question for us to end on.
What's that?
We have spent this entire time talking about the mass production of art, assuming the end consumer is human, right? We're talking about humans feeling emotion.
Right.
But if an artist can truly generate 4 billion high-quality songs with a single click in 2034, human beings physically cannot listen to that.
No, it's impossible.
So what happens when the promotion bots and algorithms listening on platforms like SoundCloud are the only entities capable of consuming and categorizing music at that incomprehensible volume?
Oh, wow.
Are we rapidly approaching a closed-loop era where AI generates infinite art entirely for other AI algorithms to listen to, while humans are left completely out of the equation?
A completely automated cultural ecosystem. Suddenly, that image of the single, perfect, handcrafted instrument feels like a relic from an entirely different dimension.
It really does.
Well, thank you for exploring this with us. And as the artist wrote in their sign-off, I love you, my deep dive friends. By the way, hope your day is merry and bright.
A very fitting end.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.